Namaste. Today is International Day of Yoga, and like every year, Darpan Foundation is celebrating the entire month of June via conversations and workshops relating to rejuvenation of our environment. Darpan Foundation welcomes all to a very special conversation series, Sahaj Samvad, with Guruji Sri Nand Kishore Tiwari, propounder of Sahaj Smriti Yoga system of self-realization, along with Sahaj Smriti Kriya, an absolutely effortless method to explore unexplored dimensions of one's existence. A path easy to follow along with the busy family life. Guruji established the Universal Forum for Human Dignity in the year 2002 and founded Darpan Sahaj Smriti Yoga Ashram at Urigam in 2018. Under Guruji's guidance, Darpan Foundation also works in areas of sustainable living, education, conservation of nature, health, sanitation, and enabling senior citizens to meaningfully contribute to society. Through our various social transformation projects, we have touched the lives of 2,000 plus students, 4,000 plus villagers, and 11 schools. Guruji says we should encourage maximum seekers and maximum seeking. And on this International Day of Yoga, we have come together to take this forward. Do make the most of this unique opportunity of conversing with a living Guru and have your real questions answered by Guruji himself. Audience, please type your questions in the Facebook or Zoom chat window and Guruji will address them. You may also ask via the Zoom audio. We are sharing the links to our Facebook and YouTube page. Do subscribe to our channel. The recording of this session will also be available on these channels. I request all to mute the audio right now so that we can maximize the bandwidth. While you are asking questions, you may unmute. I request Guruji to kindly commence the session.
ध्यानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्ते पूजामूलं गुरुपदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा. Welcome to you all today in this Samvad, because whenever there are such times, two things are happening today. Solar eclipse is there and International Yoga Day is there. Whenever eclipses happen, we say we should involve ourselves into satsang. That can be the best use of that time if we can afford. So Samvad, as the word goes, is Vad means truth, Sam means against, Sat and together, both meaning it has. So meaning taking together in truth or moving together in truth. So these are the different words for the satsang only. From time immemorial, whenever you want to take that this is the beginning, from this moment onwards I will take it to be time or journey, because there is no such point. Different peoples have defined according to their civilizations, cultures and knowledge traditions that this is the beginning of time. Some says it is 6,000 years back that earth began. Now it is being refuted. Some say some other time, but once you reach to the seerhood, means you become capable of seeing, then you saw it is eternity. Then you see that it is eternity. Means no beginning, no end. Everything else which comes into time, that is different cultures, traditions, defined by different cultures, traditions. So this is the relationship that exists between time and eternity, because if you become capable of seeing, then you will find there is no such thing as time. It is verily your consciousness only. But in everyday life, without identifying some parameters for time for all of us to communicate, it will become difficult. That is how we have made these time cycles. That is how we have made certain things common, which so that we derive the same meaning for the sake of communication. So samvad is also a communication. So what happens in a samvad is that we try to move together and reach to the truth, so that we realize it ourselves, that it is universal truth. That is the journey in any samvad. When it happens with the limited motives, then we already define something and try to reach to that. Here it is realization, that you reach on your own volition and see that it is same. So there is no what you call prejudiced theories here. It is because nobody is there to prove anything. Neither the seeker nor the one whom we considered realized. No, none of them are trying to prove anything. They are just helping each other to realize the same. That is where the Veda Vakyam Sangachadam Samvadadham comes. That let us move together in unison. That is what called being human. So welcome to all of you to this samvad. Let us try to explore the different dimensions of truth and try to realize it ourselves through questions and answers. You are welcome to ask your questions.
Hello, Guruji.
Namaste.
Namaste. Guruji, what is these two terms, sannyasi and yogi, they are commonly used in nowadays language.
Yes.
What is the difference between being a yogi and being a sannyasi, and in current lives, the lives that we lead now, meaning going to the office, normal life, commuting, etc.
Yes.
What is the path of a yogi?
Yeah. How to utilize that in life, how to bring about in that life, both things.
Yes.
So simple sannyas, let us first define something. What is sannyas? The traditional definition which is given is that karma nam sannyasa. Once you renounce the karma, that is called sannyas. Now, when we say renounce, then we'll have to, every word we are using, we need to define it so that it goes in the same sense. Renounce means what? Can you renounce something? Can you leave something? There are certain karmas which cannot be left. Who will renounce? The question will arise. And then what is karma? So karma ka nyas sannyas hai. If it is different, then we have to define karma, then you have to define nyas, then only sannyas will make sense. So first thing is that karma are of we are saying certain activities, which is, it is not more of a noun, it is more of a verb. Something like we are breathing. Now we cannot renounce breathing. Certain things are happening in our body the moment we take food. It is digested and then its essence goes into the various parts of the body. So that is also some kriya is happening. So that is also a karma, something which is happening. So in that way we define, then there will be so many things which cannot be stopped. Otherwise we stopped being, there will be no life in us. Such things are. So we have to be very careful what is being referred as karma. So karma, then such things that nobody can stay without being involved in certain karmas that have been taken into consideration as voluntary karmas, or we say karmas that we have no control over. They will happen automatically. So those we are not counting. Now they are nitya karma, naimitya karma, such karmas, then like we take bath. So they call these are the nitya karmas. We eat food, we do meditation. Now you say, is meditation nitya karma? I am saying emphatically that meditation is a nitya karma, which should be done every day. So what are you doing in a meditation? You are trying to align your individual identity with your universal identity. Anyway, what knowledge you have acquired, what knowledge has come into your understanding, you are trying to align yourself to work according to that knowledge, that you want to uphold that knowledge, you want to put that in your behavior. And that is where the yoga comes. That is called union yoga. So even sannyas is not possible without yoga. I'll come to the yoga's definition later, but when we explore definitions through the process of dialogue, which are in a way they are related, how related everything is. So that in a way we are saying that neither sannyas nor yoga can be taken into separation. Both involves one another. So this, when we say when sitting in a meditation, that you are making that union happen, which is called yoga. So here you do nitya karmas, you do naimitya karmas. Naimitya karmas are like certain things you do when somebody has taken birth. Then one has to get married, then certain ceremonies are there. Then these are called naimitya karma. Some nimit means some medium for something in this sense, that some event has to happen and you have to perform certain things according to that. So those karmas are there. If we renounce all these karmas, then there will be no society. So karmas cannot be renounced. So if we say renouncing the karma means sannyas, then it is not holding to the definition. So that means we are not understanding something is missing here. Sannyas means essentially that you reach to a truth, because truth is dynamic. All the time you are reaching to the higher and higher truth. So sannyas here means that whatever is lower, if you have become capable of renouncing that and catching hold of the higher dimension. Suppose, just very mundane example, you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and someday you realize that it is better to wake up at 5. So you renounced waking up at 6 o'clock. Some another you realize it is 4 o'clock is much better, so you renounced getting up at 5. So you have moved a degree higher towards the truth. Then you understand why we are saying Brahma Muhurtam. Why to wake up at Brahma Muhurtam? Because there is a cycle in nature. And I am speaking about material nature here because that is easy to understand. Slowly the way in the evening, and then it happens deep night, and then again the process is going on. Slowly the sun arises. So there is a process. So we have to catch up with the process which is going on. Everywhere the motions are happening. Dynamism is there. Earth is revolving. Sun is also revolving. Everywhere some movement is there. And we have to catch up with that movement and find out ourselves that we are also moving in unison with every movement. So as much refined we become, that much that realization dawns upon us. And as much realization dawns upon us, that much if we practice in life, that is called yoga. So without sannyas, yoga is not possible. So yoga means ultimately, see, these words are giving, abstract statements are given so that whenever we forget our path, so these works as reminders. This is called smriti. Shruti is when you really reach to that and attain to that. Then the same thing is called shruti. So long as we are not hearing from the absolute sense of being, till then we work with smriti for remembrance, that it is like this. So a statement is given, union of soul is the ultimate, or union of the individual identity with the universal identity is yoga. Does it end there? It doesn't. The journey keeps happening. Now only thing is that you have come to the correct location, correct position, from where you will not go down, that oh, my identity is this big, this is all responsibility I am upholding. That becomes confirmed to you as an individual who has become universal. Earlier you were having that understanding as an individual. Now you are having the same understanding and experience, the individual who has become universal. How big you are. You have come to know your dimensions. So that is yoga. And here sannyasa is that when slowly by aligning towards the universal identity, you keep leaving things which are of lesser dimension, which are of lesser consequences. So sannyas in yoga, if you see this way, they are not two. They are the same thing. Only it is vision from the different way. You are gazing from the same point in different directions. Point of standing in front of your being is same. You go by renouncing one thing, lesser and reach to the higher, and there by union you go. The same thing is happening. These are the different ways of telling. You understand? That as we say now, either you uphold to the truth or you remove the superfluous. Are not we talking about the same phenomenon? Like we say, no, if you peel off an onion and try to reach to its center, if we say reach to the center, what is there in the center of an onion? Or we say please keep peeling it off, again you will reach to the center. So both ways, when we are saying uphold to the truth, uphold to the karma, uphold to the sannyas, practically we are saying the same thing. Now, how to do it in your everyday life? Sannyas. Everything begins with your understanding, because today we all of us are educated people. We are capable of comprehending things better than our ancestor did. When I say our ancestor, we are speaking about mass terms, number of people. If you look in the recent past, there have been always fluctuation. Then education was less. After you see the independence, if you are talking about India only, then after independence and before independence and before colonization, there were different standards of education. Data says that before colonization began, even before attacks from many other countries happened, Mughals attacks happened and all, education was much more in India. Literacy was not an issue. Later on, when this period of subjugation was there, especially British, that time education went down because they changed the parameter of education. So, when we say our ancestor, all these fluctuations we have to keep in mind when we are speaking of which period. Anyway, now point is that now here and now we are capable of understanding better our life, and we should be confident what is our real knowledge. So here, how to apply in everyday life? Same thing, by understanding that what we come to understand, is that truth or not. This truth, this one word truth, is such that none can go away from this. Everybody, those who call themselves atheists, they also. Those who call themselves believers, they also. Those who call themselves seekers, they also. All will have to pronounce this word truth, that whatever, I mean, somebody's truth may be untruth for others, but they cannot say untruth. They will say truth only. This is my truth. That may be untrue for others. So in daily life and understanding, we keep reaching towards the truth. And who decides the truth? That is where it all begins. As I have maintained in every satsang almost, that truth you are, everything else is true true around you in comparison to how much truth you have become. That means when you are already truth, how much you have discovered yourself and removed the superfluous from yourself. So when we say yourself, then where from we are removing? Are we removing something? Our hands or feet or something like angas or members of the body? Removing what? Removing only ignorance from our consciousness. Removing vices from our practices. So anything which we find that it is blocking our march towards our intelligence to shine forth as wisdom, all those things we are removing. Removing means we will not use them. If we know that this is vice, so any vices, that which vice is this, virtue or vice. So this we will not use. That is the meaning of removing. Means re plus move. You understand? Sandhi vichcheda, remove. First it got moved to, means it was not there, vice was not with you. Now you have to move it again. Because in between somewhere inertia came, somewhere doubt came in your consciousness. What is that doubt? That you are not immortal, you are not infinite, you are not eternal. That is the doubt. If this doubt is removed, then you will become energetic. Because then every moment in your life you will have meaning. In this life, when you are away from this truth, which you yourself are, then meanings go away from your life. Because you think maybe some things I do in life, they make some sense, others don't. When you come to know you are immortal, you are the truth, then you know everything which you do makes sense. So it becomes meaningful. So when you are all round meaningful, then you feel happy. So satsang or sambad or truth or sannyas or karma, everything begins, you can say, with this, that are you happy by doing what you are doing? If you go little more for inside, more closer to yourself, then you will find first I should be happy, then whatever I will do, that will become karma, that will become sannyas. So you will have to first know what is being happy. Now this also needs to be understood. Happy doesn't mean that all the time you are laughing your way out whatever is happening in the world. Happiness means this, that you are at peace first of all. Whatever is happening around you, you have made yourself so disciplined that your peace is not disturbed in any circumstances. And can your peace stay without you knowing that nothing can harm you? How will you define peace? You are sitting, suppose you are sitting, and somebody comes and disturbs you, pulls your hand or leg without giving you any reason. You will feel disturbed. Simple act I am telling. You are sitting in your house and even your child or your somebody just pushes you certain way, you will feel uncomfortable in that. Forget about the unknown person. So peace is possible only when you know yourself as an immortal. That is to be understood in right sense. Peace cannot come without yourself understanding as immortal. And for that the ways are given, that you meditate, you understand right concepts, you verify those, that these things which you know are real or not. So first it begins with oneself. So how to apply in life? By understanding right way. Right way means you follow certain spiritual path. That should give you result, but you should follow it correctly. And when it gives result, then you know it is working. Then you should not leave it. Then keep moving on it. One thing at a time. If you are not liking certain way, you go and experiment with another. No issue about that. But one at a time. Because that otherwise your journey will become very long. So in daily life, simple things. You don't have to go through so much literature or reading. Just experiment on your life what is truth for you. So we say here it is very simple. To know yourself, you are defined by three things outwardly. Man, vachan and karma. Mind, deed and the application of the same in your life. So when your mind is pacified, it happens in degrees. You will not realize in one instant that I am immortal, because that will be not correct. It is a happening which will happen ultimately. And this is possible only in human birth. That is why this much value is given to this human form. That it is only in this frame or form that one can experience one's immortality. Means what? When you sit in meditation, someday you may find that your body is sitting apart from you and you have no relation with it. Then only, otherwise without experience, how do you know that you are immortal? When you see that, look, that body is there, I am not there in it, then you see that yes, it is possible. So there is something real in it. That is what our path has been. That is where we say that Amritasya putra vayam. So slowly by experimenting in one's life, one can come to the conclusion of being immortal. Once you know this, then you will automatically do what you should do. So everyday life, it is very simple. Do your practices whatever you consider truth, follow it with your heart. Follow it in real sense.
Guruji, see, this is in the present context when we have our armed forces on alert on our borders.
Yes.
If we can consider Gita to be giving, to be preaching stability to our armed forces, can we consider yoga as the preaching for the citizens of the country to maintain their stability under these sort of circumstances?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Guruji. See, Gita is treasure trove of life. It is song of the soul. It is existence. It is the voice of the divine. Everything. So means when we say voice of the divine, means truth again. So people, all the ways they should understand that this is swadharme nidhanam sreshtham paradharmo bhayavaya. So everybody whosoever is wherever, they have a swadharma. Means like our Jawans are fighting on the border. They are ready to fight every time. They are ready to sacrifice their life for the country, and they are ready to take others' life on the border, because that is their role. Both ways, It is the role of a fighter that he is ready to give up one's life and he is ready to take other life for the security of our nation. Both ways it is Veeragati. So that is the role of the fighter. So to keep their morale up, that we are one with them because they are fighting on the border, same way we can keep ourselves alert by nestling ourselves in the real knowledge. Real knowledge means what? In this context. See, we say that we are eternal Sanatana Atma, but we have different identities. So this is the national identity which makes all of us go together. So in that identity, we are one with our Jawans. That identity we have to honor. Otherwise, it will become untruth. We will become not truthful people. When we say we are as a nation one, then we are honoring that identity. If somebody, see, that is how we say there is depth in the knowledge. It is very practical question and you are saying, but as a spiritual person, our role is to always keep that openness. Suppose somebody from the border par comes, here I come and surrender to you, then our duty will be different. Somebody comes and asks asylum, then our duty will be different. Somebody comes as a guest, then our duty will be different. But somebody is coming as an attacker, then our duty is different. So knowledge means we are aware of all our identities and we are ready to behave according to the identity chosen by the other. Earlier, when we remember the Mahabharata time or other, there was this thing, rules were there in the war. That somebody fights with sword, then another fighter has to accept only sword, not with the bow and arrow. But that much rules and regulations, with that much clarity, are they being followed today? To certain extent, yes. When it is happening fist to fist war, then they are involved. They are not supposed to use other weapons, not airborne weapons or others. But now these days we are having certain limitations because people's ethics are at contravention with one another. So until this universal knowledge reaches to all, till then these contraventions in morals positions will be there. Somebody says, some nation, they say, this is my moral principle, this is my religious principles, I go according to it. That is why we come back to the truth. So those things are open all the time. If somebody is coming as a seeker of knowledge, but if somebody is coming as an enemy, then we are one with our soldiers because they are doing their Swadharma fighting then, and our Swadharma is to be with them. So solidarity, that yes, Swadharme Nidhanam Sreshtham means we are also ready to do the same if that opportunity so arrives. We are not running away from that, and neither we are saying that they are doing something which they should not do. We are very much one with them, and everybody here also, like we are saying that today they say economic power is the most relevant power. So if we are capable of renouncing the things which are manufactured in China, then it is our duty to renounce those things and accept things which are manufactured in our own country that will enhance our economic power, and renouncing Chinese things, products that will make them weaker because everything is running on economic power. So we can show solidarity in many ways by expressing our solidarity in words, through messages and all, to keep the morale up, but by buying things Indian and leaving things Chinese, that is also a way to the extent it is possible. So we can show our solidarity in both these ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. There are a couple of questions that have come on the eclipse today. One from Jyoti ji. Can you explain how Grahana and our life is related? And the other one is from Dattatreya ji. There is a saying that during eclipse time, it is not good to take food and doing meditation is more effective. Is it true?
Yes, second question's answer is straightforward. Yes, it is true. Doing meditation, doing satsang, it is good because that keeps your spirit up. And as we see, everything we are seeing from the both questions are related only, and how this, like we know how the food is comes into being. Like in every plant, food begins with the plant, we are saying, perceivably. Otherwise, we can go little more back and see that it begins with the non-living. These are only minerals and non-living things which we call non-living, come into a plant. Photosynthesis happens, and that is how every cell becomes alive, and that is how we are seeing that one energy from inert to some life in it, and then that life forms into much more life form, consumed by another, and that is how this energy transformation is happening. Throughout this cycle, food cycle, we all know. So what happens when we say photosynthesis? We are saying that whatever energy is generated from sun, that comes into the form of light, that only is at play in different forms. So when solar eclipse comes, what happens? It is just the moon has come in between sun and earth. So some blockage is happening. That's what it is happening. So the whole cycle is affected by that food cycle. That is why it is told that do not eat at this time, because that food will be low in life. So it will not be conducive. If you can avoid that time, it is good. So this way, both things are related. That it is all about, because if you keep your spiritual energies high, that means you will not undergo that kind of depression which should come due to your consuming less energetic food. So contamination means this only. So everything which is in spirituality, which is in Sanatan Dharma, there is a science behind it. We can discover that science, but this is not the limitation of the Sanatan Dharma. Science is in it. They say, Jnani hute ati priya vigyani. That to the spiritual, to the divinity, to the God or Guru, whatever name we give, they say it is not knowledgeable ones that are dear to that. It is Vijnani, scientists who are dear, because scientists tell you clearly how it is happening. But that is not the limitation of the spirituality. That is the what you call one dimension of the spirituality. So far you see more and more. Earlier there was a period when science was working more towards gross things. That time they were not understanding. Now once this atomic physics came into being, quantum physics came, then more the things are moving towards that direction what seers and saints declared during Upanishadic period. More they are going in tune to that. So this should be understood in right perspective, right way. That there is no, what do you say, any kind of belief. It is discovered truth which is behind it. Seekers discovered truth. Andhavishwas nahi hai koi. There is always design clearly seeable in whatever we are following in the name of Sanatan Dharma. Because Dharma even comes later, first comes truth. They say Dharma na dusar satya samana. There is no other dharma better than truth. So it all boils down to the truth. So science is just making us see that this is the truth. This dimension of the truth is visible. So yes, grahana you can define it this way, that this is about the food. That everything which we are consuming, it is transformation of one energy form into another, leading to that. We are consuming one kind of energy and becoming another kind of energy. That is the journey of the food. So during the Grahan, because of the position, it becomes a little low due to the obvious reason that moon comes in between. So that is how you can see this way. So both things are related.
Thanks, Guruji. The next question is from Yogesh on Facebook. Pranam Guruji, how attachment towards family affects spiritual progress?
Attachment means what? How you see? Undue attachment, if you are seeing towards anything, why only family? Even towards family, if it is, at least it can be some kind of advantage. But if it is in other terms, it will be worse. So undue attachment, anywhere it is not right. Involvement is good. You should use the term involvement and try to see from that perspective. Attachment, when you are saying, how you qualify that. In itself, if you say it only just as a verb, then it is neither good nor bad. Because things, if you say no, whole your body is attached, every particle is attached to one another, in which sense you are seeing? So naturally, when you are asking this question, you are seeing undue attachment. Or you are considering that family is a impediment in your spiritual progress, then it is not correct understanding. Family is never an impediment. Nobody is an impediment other than you yourself in your spiritual realization. Only you have to discover your better self and keep renouncing your lower self. So in these all, wherever this undue attachment is there, you will find one day that it is defining your lower self. So when you renounce your lower self by upholding to your higher self, then this undue attachment will automatically fall off. So there is no such things. Means we are somewhere considering ourselves superior. Then we say we can renounce this and we can say no. You can renounce something within and you can uphold something only within. Outside else will come just its behavior, what our understanding has become. So this question, yes, undue anything, why attachment alone? Undue anything is not good. That is why it is called undue. Otherwise it will be called due, duly attached. So if you are duly attached and not unduly attached, then it is fine. So duly attached means you are involved with your work, you are involved in your doing your duty, and you will keep knowing your duty as much as your knowledge comes. So the Gyan, Upasana and Kriya, they move together. More you gain knowledge, your karma will change. But it happens in simple life also. He says, today suppose you are using computer, you know few skills about it. Tomorrow you know more about it, then your work style will change. You will do the same work in a better way. Same thing is about yourself. How much you know about yourself, that this is how I am. That is why in Sahaj Smriti Yoga we say, please know your body well, know your mind well, know yourself well, know your soul. So everything which you keep knowing, you place it at the right place. Then it is not a trouble, it becomes a helper. Same thing which we are seeing as an impediment, that you will see as a helper. Because except we ourselves, nothing else is a problem in our spiritual realization. That is how it is said that Atma hi Atma ka Shatru hai, Atma hi Atma ka Mitra hai. The soul alone is the enemy and mind alone is the enemy and soul alone is the friend. Atma means two things there. Atma ka dushman nahi hota. That is not correct. So this is, mind can be enemy of mind. One tendency of mind, because Rag Dvesh stay only in the mind, not in the soul. Soul has only one vikar that we call ahankar. No other vikar is there, and that is not a negative quality. That needs to be transcended because that is your identity. But all other vices are hanging are attached with you because you have not crossed your own real better self. If you keep moving towards that, then you will see there is no impediment. So yes, by naming something bad alone, solution is not there. Solution lies in our knowing it as it is, how it is related to me, how is attachment related to me, myself. So everything knowing in right way, that where is its role. So everything which is there in this whole existence has some role to play. But do we know it? Have we come to know its correct place? Then our journey will become smooth. That is how it is. So it should be seen in right way.
Guruji, this is Anindya here. I have a question in context to what we mentioned about our soldiers fighting at the border to protect our country.
Yes.
But do you, in a land of ahimsa practiced by Gandhiji, do you recommend the methodology by which the Indian soldiers have come very heavily on the Chinese soldiers by using primitive military methods of smashing their faces beyond recognition? Don't you think even a dead body has to be respected? Soldiers cannot be beheaded, or their faces cannot be smashed, that their families, they are also human beings, no Guruji? They can be from an enemy country, but their families also have a right to see their faces before they are cremated. So what is your opinion in that? Do you still feel that our soldiers have done their duty in adopting these kind of primitive military methods?
Okay. Got you. Question. See, first of all, a spiritual person have no opinions. Their role is to state the principle. If they have opinion, then they are not a spiritual person. So let me give you an example. What happened? Then I'll come, because this, as I said in the beginning, that we have very many identities. If they come as Atithi, then our role will be different. If they come as a seeker, our treatment will be different. If they come in whatever form they are coming, accordingly our duties our behavior towards anyone will change, be this Chinese, be this American, or any from any country or anywhere. That is how the principle is, that I have already stated. Now here let me give you an example, because Ramayana and Mahabharata, this is the history which is treasure of examples. So when Ravan was killed, and then Vibhishan had to do his last rites, he refused to do it according to Valmiki. He says, he is my brother, but he is not my ideal. He does not follow he is not ideal for me. That is why I have come to you. He spoke to Ram very clearly that I will not do his last rites. Because he is my brother, what can I do into it? Because of the karma, we are born in the same family. But as a person, I have choice. I can choose better. I am a being. I am a human being. So I choose the path of righteous. I choose the path of dharma. And he has not been following dharma. So I renounced him. I came to you. I considered you God because you are following dharma. I will not do this. Then Ram replied to him that once he is dead, he is no more worthy of your love or hatred towards him. The body is now worthy of receiving all the rights it needs to be, because enmity was so long as there was life in him. And he has chosen the role of being enemy. He has chosen the path of being unrighteous. If This sense is not there. That is why the dharma, how you define dharma otherwise? Dharma means that you are upholding some principle at the cost of your life as well as the other's life. You are not treating two ways. That no, if my life is at stake, then no dharma. If somebody else's life is at stake, then dharma. This cannot happen. Then it is no more dharma. Dharma is same for all. That is why it is the principle. That is why the dharma cannot have opinions. Followers of dharma can have opinions, but dharma cannot have opinions. It is true for all. Now what is happening? The reality in the borders. The principle is clear that once somebody is dead, even if he is a demon, he is deserving, he should get the deserving treatment. He means now body should get respect, everything, that is right. There is no two ways about it. Now what is happening at the border? There are scores of informations coming in a different ways. All information do not match. Some information say that Indian soldiers were treated badly. We have still in our minds as Indians the images of what had happened during Pakistan and India war. In what shape our soldiers came, their bodies came. We may not have forgotten that. What is happening here? In China, there are different kind of informations. So once you are on the war front, whatever rules are being followed, if one side is committing mistake, and another sees no way other than doing the same, behaving in the same coin, otherwise they cannot win, that is recommended, that is whole Mahabharata. That Sakuni said once that you go and attack Pandavas in the night, and they follow dharma, they will not attack back you in the night. So then dharma becomes weakness, and that should not happen. And Yudhishthira exactly said the same thing, no, we will not. But Krishna said, no, you go and attack them in the night. Because once you are in that footing, then the dharma should not become your weakness, it should be your strength all the time. If somebody keeps, then it becomes cowardice, that you are not capable of giving in the retaliation in the same vein. So if rules are being defined in right way and both parties are following rules and fighting, there was in the same Mahabharata, this was also there, that today you could fight from Pandava's side, tomorrow you can fight from Kaurav's side, and vice versa. So very many phenomena are happening because every individual is interpreting dharma according to one's own knowledge. And when you are in a union, when you are not one people, suppose on border, you are behaving according to what your commander is telling you, and then you are there on the scene, and then you are behaving the way other party is responding to you. So responses are decided according to one's conscience. So I have firm trust in the conscience of our soldiers that whatever they are doing, I do not know what they are doing. I do not have a camera to see what is happening there. But what they are doing, because they comes from this background of soul, be they from any religion for that matter, on border be they Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever, Buddha, any dharma, you name it, religion. But when they are on the border, they are Indian first, and they are behaving according to that. How the other party is responding to them, they are giving their response to them. So if your accounts do not match what is happening there, then you will not know what is really there. But principle I have stated, that dead body is, yes, should be given respect. But before a body turns into a dead body, response to that body will be according to that body responds to you. So in war, rules are written then and there also. To avoid that, policies are made. To avoid that, higher principles are followed. So wherever those principles are followed, therever you will not have such grievances. But where there are coming many versions, so it is better to not to go according to the hearsay until the facts come from the credible sources, that this is how it happened and both sides corroborate that yes, this is how it happened, then only we should pass the judgment. Because passing judgment here means what? That means you are stating a truth again for the next time, so that something if wrong happened, it is not repeated, and something if it good happened, it should be followed. War, nobody is saying, nobody see the whole Gita is, if you remember why it has been spoken. It has been spoken on a field where war has become inevitable. Then only principle is being stated even on that battleground. That is the depth of the Sanatana. That when even death is imminent at that time, what are they discussing? Principle they are discussing. So, I trust that being from that background, our soldiers will not do anything wrong. They will do what needs to be done at the border.
Thank you, Guruji.
Guruji, the next question is from Meera Prasad ji. Pranam Guruji, people who practice yoga say it is body over soul, whereas we are told it is soul over body. Which is correct?
Soul, body, mind, self, all these things are not different. They are different aspects of the same. So when you say body over soul, means you are saying that something soul can be upholded, but can it be upholded without body? No. So long as we are in human frame, because this is the only frame in which karma is done, where you can better your lot in your journey. It is like transformation over the journey. While you are traveling, you begin as somebody else, and when you end your journey, suppose you are going on a pilgrimage, you started as a human being, and by the time you reach there, you have become transformed into a divine being. That is how it is told about satsang. Kaak hoi pik bakahu marala. That a crow can become a cuckoo, and a geese can become into a hansa. So this transformation is possible. This transformation you can understand in this sense only: body, mind, self and soul way. That when you begin your journey as a human being through understanding through your mind, and suddenly you reach to the realization that you are a soul, then your behavior will change. Where will you change behavior? Because soul is all pervasive. There is no place, space that their soul is not. That is the soul. So if such is the case, then in such case definitely you are not talking about body. So it becomes soul over body. But what is its relevance to the body then? Because you are realizing that in a body. So your behavior in mind, your thinking styles, your making decisions, your upholding or not upholding them, all this will change. So that means when you are upholding something, that means it is yourself, your character, that you are capable of upholding a thing despite favorable or unfavorable situations. Now this is not your adamancy. If it is happening without the sense of right and wrong, then it is adamancy, and that is not self, that is mind. So same way in the body. Now you come to know through your mind that eating a thing is not good, but you are still eating that. That means who? Body over mind. So practice is always from top down. When it is become from the down to up, then it is wrong. That is the whole thing. So when you realize you are soul, that means you are eternal. Then you realize you are immortal. Then you come down to the self. Now I will uphold. When I am eternal, immortal, nothing can happen wrong to me, then why should I not do what I should do? Instead of why should I keep doing what I should not do? So your self is empowered. So that way your behavior that will reflect on your mind. When you are determined to do something, your mind will become more clear. Same way, when the things are clearer at the mind level, you will follow. Tell your body, no, it is good to do exercise, it is good to eat pure food, and it will follow. So things there, you have to see them as they are instead of saying one over another, because all are related. Their relation you have to discover. True relationship, that this is how one influences the other, this is how one enhances other, and that relationship when we understand, then we understand it clearly. So it is not about one over the other. But if you do not consider this, that you are a soul, then everything else falls down. Your whole scaffolding falls down. Because then it will keep coming down, and then it will end at the body. No, it is a body working like an automaton. How the circumstances are happening, accordingly it is driving itself. And there is no point after it, there was no point before it thinking about it. So it will reduce to the reductionism, to the worst results which are false. So if we have to attain to the truth, realize our truth at who we are, then we have to begin with the soul. That is why assume, we say, assume other divine. So other is that only in that sense. If you see the other which you are not knowing, you are yourself. So this journey from you to you is there. That is how you assume something better. So soul, that way it is said that soul over body, not in the negative sense. It is so that our evolution, whatever we call, seeing as it is, because some people do not like this word evolution. They say, what is, if evolution is happening, then that means something else is happening which was not there. So how it is as it is. So it depends what word you are giving to it, but the journey is seeing as it is, how you are. So giving just words that you want to give priority, yes, priority is giving to the reality. If there is no truth, then what we are looking for? So definitely priority will be given to the truth. So truth, we say you are. So what you are, truth, means you are always there. This means this body is not always there. That means this is not truth. So in that sense, soul over body. So it has to be seen right way in every point. Then it becomes clear why somewhere it is told soul over body, why somewhere it is told body over soul. So according to the context, the work which feet do, head doesn't. The work which head do, feet doesn't. But it doesn't make them lower and higher. They are positioned in the body in such a way that we call them lower and higher. But is there any lower and higher? Because we even don't know which is higher, which is lower. We are hanging on earth somewhere where we do not have any idea which is low, which is high. Just we have one option, that can be put ourselves to on such a journey where we keep knowing ourselves better and better, more and more, clearer and clearer, until we reach to the reality. Oh, this is how it is. This is how I am. That is how it should be seen. Thank you.
Thanks, Guruji. The next question is from Rajesh Kangovi ji on Facebook. Can we, through meditation, control our thoughts?
Okay. See, controlling, again, meditation brings clarity in your person. So you become in control. Controlling thoughts means what? That you have them and you don't want to exercise them. If that is the meaning, then it is not correct. You become one with the whole reality around. In that way you become refined. So your intelligence becomes such that the thoughts which are not meaningful, it will reject. That this is not good to have. And then they do not find value. They will not come to you. See, if something is very clean, and you put a small spot on it, it can be easily seen. If something is already dirty and you put one more stop, you will not register. So meditation brings us towards that clean kind of slate existence, that where things are clearer to us. So when you reach to certain stage where you see no, even thoughts are not necessary, so they will not come to you. Yes, in that sense it can be controlled, but not that by meditation you will control the thought. By meditation you become such that thoughts are not needed. Your person will not entertain them. That is how you should see it.